Hey, what is up, mortals? It is TCCrew here, and welcome to part 3 of What If Overhaul Was a Hero. Just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. And so we begin. The ear-splitting chatter of the bell resonated down the hallway. A loud and frankly agitated reminder that the third year had, at most, 2.5 months until they would graduate and become fully fledged young heroes. It was something that, despite his otherwise cool, leveled appearance, Kai remained ecstatic for. He lazily diverted his attention from Strongow's lecture to the giggling blonde. Hazashi had been more chipper than usual. Kai put it up to being due to Aizawa's, Nemuri's, Oboros, and his own most recent introduction to his Purple Highness's hero agency. A large stepping stone for the young quartet of up-and-coming heroes. Rising up from his seat, he, alongside the other three, ventured out from the classroom towards where amalgamations of the other classes and years meandered about in the yard connecting the gates to the main doors.
"You're ready to head out, Shizuki,"
Hazashi said in a sing-song voice. The brunette in question shrugged. "I guess so," he said flatly.
"Come on, man. We're third years now, you gotta show some spunk. This is our first gig as actual heroes, and it's with his Purple Highness,"
Hazashi said. Aizawa seemed to share the same sentiment as Kai, however, standing tiredly off towards the back, the curtain of ebony locks that was his hair shadowing his rather glum features. The thunderous blonde looked between the two introverts, a look of shock and exasperation painted across his features before he finally settled his gaze back on Kai.
Fine. You two can be party poopers. Me and Obro will celebrate by ourselves,"
Hazashi said, crossing his arms before walking off. Obro, who lingered nearby, couldn't help but grin broadly at the display between the group. It never got old, no matter how old they got.
"You two gotta stop messing with Hazashi like that. Poor guy's gotta blow a casket trying to get you two to smile,"
he said. Kai stifled a smile, turning away from the group as he began making his way towards the gates.
"You can try and act like a tough guy all you want, but I saw that,"
Oboro said to Kai. He made a gesture towards Aizawa.
"Let's go! Hero duties await,"
he announced proudly, marching off through the gates and into the land beyond.
"So,"
His Purple Highness began.
"the four of you youngsters are going to be my new interns?"
he asked, making sure to put emphasis on the word my.
"Yes!"
They all answered in sync.
"You know what I'm seeing here, standing before me?"
His Purple Highness asked, pressing his hands on either of his hips. The four of them looked at him questioningly.
"What I'm seeing is four youngsters who stand here before me that are too afraid to smile. Heroes like us are here to give the gift of hope to folks in trouble. But you lot wear your stress all over your sleeve and drag down the people you need saving. You all want to be heroes? Then trust in your own power and smile until that confidence blooms out from within,"
he announced vibrously, throwing both of his hands high in the air.
"Now, what's your hero names?"
he asked loudly. Oboro and Hazashi grinned in unison, earning the attention of their hero attendee.
"The voice hero, present Mike!"
Hazashi yelled.
"The floating hero, Loud Cloud,"
Oboro said, throwing an arm around the posterior blonde to his side.
"The racer hero, Eraserhead,"
Aizawa said flatly. His Royal Highness frowned.
"And you, pretty boy?"
he asked Shizuki.
"The restoration hero, Genesis,"
he announced.
"I like that. It's brave and it's bold. It's boisterous and it's a name that people can cling on to,"
he said. He placed his hands on each of his shoulders, beaming at them with all the care and adoration of a father. However, he perked up as the pale-skinned woman, scantily clad in what looked to be a trench coat and a few belts, entered the room, pouting upon seeing the four of them.
"You all said you'd wait for me,"
she said, stomping her boot-clad foot. She immediately flashed a grin and a peace sign.
"The XXX rated hero, Midnight,"
she announced with a vibrant twirl of her flog. His Royal Highness grinned.
"Now this is the kind of spunk that you need to be a hero. Now,"
his Royal Highness yelled,
"let's get to work."
His footsteps echoed down the alleyway like the rapid fire of a machine gun, allowing in the wake of a pale-haired boy as one by one clouds manifested underneath his feet, lifting himself higher and higher into the air before he would drop down right on top of the fleeing thief with a double-handed strike from his quarterstaff, the wooden stick's edge stripping directly off the crown of the man's head, knocking the fleeing perp out in one blow.
"That'll teach you to try to steal,"
Loud Cloud said, leaning his staff on his shoulder. His Royal Highness Kai and Aizawa followed close behind. The aforementioned pro nodded in approval.
Nice job, little hero,
His Royal Highness said with approval.
Now let's see how well you handle the media. The police should be here soon. Why don't you and old Genesis over there go out there and hand him over to the cops?
His Royal Highness said.
"You got it, RH."
Obro Loudcloud said, flashing the man a thumbs up. Taking the downed robber up, he threw his arm over his shoulder before dragging him, with Kai at his side, down the alleyway and out into the open where 4 police cars waited, weapons drawn and cuffs ready.
"What are we to call you, hero?"
The police officer asked Obro. He took the unconscious man, cuffing him before throwing him into the back of the vehicle alongside the other 2 resting within.
"They call me Loudcloud,"
he said. The officer looked from him and to Kai.
"And you?"
he asked.
Genesis.
He replied, bowing his head. The officer returned to gesture back, closing the door and sealing the last 2 away before preparing to get back into his vehicle. An explosion from further down the road garnered both Oboro and Kai's attention.
What the?
The building in front of them was reduced to rubble as a rotund, frog-like figure emerged from the rubble.
Aburo, I need you to get Aizawa as fast as you can to help in the evacuations.
He yelled.
Kai and I will hold this thing back.
He yelled. Oboro looked over at Kai, who returned a similarly uneasy gaze. Oboro rapidly formed clouds underneath him before using it to quickly fly up and away from the scene. Kai looked back towards the villain, watching as a tumor-like growth formed on his back before floating up and off.
Kai, watch out!
Highness said. He pushed Kai out of the way as the bubbled lands, exploding as soon as they touched down and leaving the craters in the ground upon impact that rocketed the road, making even the sturdiest of buildings quake. Kai crawled to his hands and knees, quickly using his teeth to pry the glove from his hand before placing his palm down on the tarmac beneath. The rock reacted to his touch, a massive square pillar formed beneath the villain and shooting him up into the air as an energy blast struck the creature in the side.
Buster Yonan has arrived!
His Royal Highness said. 4 figures appeared from down the road. One summoned what looked to be a jellyfish, which immediately moved to attack the villain, while the other's skin hardened and turned to jagged and prickly like a porcupine. The villain almost immediately opened his mouth to consume one of the approaching jellyfish, and as another villain arrived and began shooting beams of green energy at the villain, he did the same thing, opening his mouth to angrily consume the ensuing attacks by the heroes. In return, several bubbles began forming on the beast's back. These bubbles were directed down towards the villains, and as they touched down, they exploded with the stored and combined energy of the heroes' attacks.
He's eating our attacks and using them to strengthen his own,
Highness said in astonishment.
We need to stop him now so he doesn't tear apart the whole city.
Kai furrowed his brow, clenching his hand where it sat and causing the pillar to vaporize before quickly reforming into several pillars which looped up before crashing down on the villain. He responded as prior, merely opening his mouth to consume the ensuing attacks. With nothing left to stop it, the villain would hunker down before leaping off the pillar and flying off into the city.
Kai!
Highness said.
Run! You need to stop that thing no matter what!
Highness ushered him on. Kai went sprinting as fast as he could down the street. Several rapid explosions could be heard in the distance that spurred Kai forward faster. He plucked the opposite glove from his hand as he ran, quickly eating up the distance towards the villain. He was greeted to the sight of a crumbling school, an unconscious midnight, and Oboro laying amongst the rubble, bleeding from a large wound on his skull. Aizawa looked up from where he lay, bloodied and bruised, at Kai as he approached.
Shoto!
Kai yelled, sprinting forward and coming to his friend's side.
What happened is...
Oboro is dead. Highness is unconscious, and my legs are broken.
Shoto interrupted him.
You need to fight this thing,
he said.
I can't. My quirk.
Aizawa grabs Kai by the arm.
You need to, or else Oboro died for nothing.
Aizawa ushered him. Kai nodded, stepping back before looking towards the villain. Kneeling down, he placed one of his hands on top of Oboro's face, before clutching his face with the other. His eyes crackled and broke like glass, until before Aizawa's eyes, their flesh, limbs, blood, and muscles merged. A pair of arms, reminiscent of Oboro's own, sprouted from below his own. His skin turned pale with black veins running from it, and it appeared that Oboro's very clothes had merged with Kai's flesh. He launched himself through the air directly at the villain. With a chunk of rock in hand, as the villain swung at him, the rock would quickly manifest into spikes that he'd use to block the strike, before responding with a double-fisted right hook that landed with all the force of a bus, rocking the villain and knocking him to the side before he would place all 4 hands on the ground. Multiple pillars of stone would merge from the ground, rapidly striking the villain and battering him into the ground again and again. The pillar would soon melt away into a large pillar that would throw the villain up seconds before another would intercept the villain and sending him careening back into the ground.
I'm sorry, Oboro, but I need your hands to help me in beating this villain,
Chisaki yelled, manifesting clouds underneath his feet, similar to what Oboro had done. He used them to launch himself at the villain. His 4 arms disintegrated before forming 2 massive fists that he would use to close the beast's mouth with an uppercut as he opened his maw. Putting both massive hands to the ground, the earth around the beast would come to life, encasing it before merging it in with the ground and freezing it solid where it laid, leaving Kai standing there, breathless. Kai looked down at himself, placing a hand against his chest, his body separated from Oboro's own, causing him to collapse to his hands and knees. Dragging himself towards Oboro, he placed his hand on top of his head, using his quirk to break down and rebuild Oboro's own broken body. The exhaustion caused Kai to collapse onto his back with a heavy breath. His vision faded as the sirens arrived, and Kai faded blissfully into unconsciousness, a smile on his lips. They were heroes, finally. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called itssslittt Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. Secondly, on behalf of itssslittt, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at itssslittt, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being, we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits, we're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.